There are moments in life when a single decision tears a family apart forever. This is the story of a mother who made a choice that broke her son's heart, and a son who believed he would never forgive her. But what happened years later would change everything they thought they knew about love, sacrifice, and redemption. Marcus was 17 when his mother told him to leave. Not for a day, not for a week, but permanently. The words came out cold, final, like a door slamming shut on everything he had ever known. He stood in the doorway of the only home he had ever lived in, a single backpack over his shoulder, watching as his mother turned her back to him. No hug, no tears, just silence. And in that silence, something inside Marcus shattered. He had always been the rebellious one. The kid who came home late, who skipped school, who talked back. But he was still her son. He was still the boy who used to hold her hand crossing the street, who used to draw her pictures with crayons, who used to believe his mother was the strongest person in the world. And now, she was sending him away. Just like that. As if he meant nothing. As if 17 years of being her son could be erased with a single command. Marcus walked into the cold November night with nowhere to go. He had $40 in his pocket, a phone with 15% battery, and a heart full of rage. He told himself he hated her. He told himself he would never come back. He told himself that if this was how she wanted it, then fine. He would survive without her. He would prove that he didn't need her, didn't need anyone. But surviving on the streets is not like surviving in the movies. It's cold, it's hungry, it's humiliating. Marcus slept in bus stations, in parks, behind abandoned buildings. He ate from trash cans when he had to. He learned to avoid eye contact, to keep moving, to trust no one. Every night, as he lay on cold concrete with his backpack as a pillow, he thought about his mother. And every night, the rage grew stronger. He wondered if she ever thought about him, if she ever regretted it, if she ever lay awake at night wondering where her son was sleeping, what he was eating, if he was safe. But deep down, Marcus didn't believe she cared. If she cared, she wouldn't have done it. If she cared, she would have fought for him. If she cared, she would have chosen him. Months passed. Marcus found work washing dishes at a diner. The owner, an older man named Frank, let him sleep in the storage room in exchange for extra hours. It wasn't much, but it was better than the streets. Marcus saved every penny. He told himself that one day he would have his own place, his own life, and his mother would see that he made it without her. He never called her, never texted, never went back to that neighborhood. He cut her out of his life the same way she had cut him out of hers. Clean, final, permanent, or so he thought. 3 years went by. Marcus was 20 now. He had his own small apartment, a full-time job at a warehouse, and a girlfriend named Sarah who made him laugh. Life wasn't perfect, but it was his. He had built it from nothing, and he had done it alone. Then one afternoon, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. The voice on the other end was shaky, unfamiliar. It took Marcus a moment to realize it was his aunt, his mother's sister. They hadn't spoken since the day he left. She said his mother was in the hospital. She said it was serious. She said he needed to come. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Part of him wanted to hang up. Part of him wanted to say that it wasn't his problem anymore. That she made her choice 3 years ago. And now he was making his. But another part of him, a part he thought had died that November night, whispered something he didn't want to hear. What if this is your last chance to understand why? And that question, that single, terrible question, was enough to make him get in his car and drive to the hospital. Not because he had forgiven her, not because he wanted to see her, but because he needed to know. He needed to look her in the eyes and ask the question that had haunted him for 3 years. Why did you throw me away? The hospital smelled like disinfectant and something else Marcus couldn't name. something that made his stomach turn. He walked through the sterile white hallways, following the room number his aunt had given him. Each step felt heavier than the last. He told himself he was only here for answers. Nothing more. When he reached the room, he stopped outside the door. His hand hovered over the handle. Behind that door was the woman who had given him life and then taken away his home. The woman he had loved more than anyone in the world. The woman he now hated with equal intensity. He pushed the door open. His mother lay in the hospital bed, smaller than he remembered, thinner. Her hair, which had always been dark and thick, was now streaked with gray and pulled back in a loose ponytail. Her face was pale, her cheekbones sharp. An IV dripped slowly into her arm. She looked fragile, breakable. Nothing like the strong woman who had ordered him out of her house 3 years ago. She turned her head when she heard the door. Their eyes met, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Marcus saw something flash across her face. Surprise, relief, pain. But no tears. She never cried. Even now, lying in a hospital bed, she wouldn't let herself cry. "You came," she finally said. Her voice was rough, tired. "I came for answers," Marcus replied. He didn't move from the doorway. "Not for you." His mother nodded slowly, as if she had expected nothing less. She gestured weakly to the chair beside her bed. "Sit, please." Marcus didn't want to sit. He didn't want to be close to her. But his legs were tired, and something about seeing her like this made it hard to stay standing. He sat down, keeping his distance, his arms crossed over his chest. 3 years, he said. His voice was cold. 3 years and not a single call, not a text, nothing. "You threw me out like garbage and never looked back." His mother closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with something Marcus couldn't read. "I know what you think of me," she said quietly. "And you have every right to think it." "Then tell me why," Marcus demanded. "Tell me why you did it. What did I do that was so terrible you couldn't stand to have me in your house anymore? Was it because I stayed out late? Because I talked back? Because I wasn't the perfect son you wanted?" His mother shook her head slowly. "It wasn't about what you did, Marcus." "Then what was it about?" His voice rose despite himself. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you just stopped loving me, like I stopped mattering. You never stopped mattering." Her words came out sharp, almost angry. Then she took a breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. "You were everything that mattered. That's why I had to do it." Marcus stared at her. "That makes no sense." "I know." She looked down at her hands. "I know it doesn't. Not to you. Not yet." The words hung in the air between them. Not yet. As if there was something he didn't understand. Something she was still keeping from him. "Then explain it to me," Marcos said. "You owe me that much." His mother was quiet for a long time. The machines around her beeped steadily. Someone walked past in the hallway outside. Finally, she spoke. "Do you remember your father?" The question caught Marcus off guard. His father. He had left when Marcus was 7, just packed a bag one day, and never came back. Marcus barely remembered him. A tall man with rough hands and a voice that got loud when he drank. "What does he have to do with this?" Marcus asked. "Everything," his mother said. "He has everything to do with this. But I need you to listen, really listen, because what I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to hear." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in her voice, something dark, something she had been carrying alone for years. "When you were 7, she began, your father didn't just leave. He was taken by people who said he owed them money. A lot of money. Money from gambling debts he had hidden from me." Marcus frowned. "Taken? What do you mean taken?" "I mean men came to our house in the middle of the night, men with weapons. They took your father, and they told me that if I didn't pay what he owed, they would come back. Not for me, for you." The room suddenly felt very cold. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. "They gave me 5 years to pay it back," his mother continued. $50,000. I was working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. There was no way I could come up with that kind of money, so I did what I had to do. I worked 3 jobs. 4 jobs. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Every penny I made went toward that debt." She paused. Her breathing labored. "But it wasn't enough. By the time you turned 17, I had only paid back half. And they came back. They came back and they said time was up. They said I could finish paying or they could take you instead. As collateral. Until the debt was settled." Marcus felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "What are you saying?" His mother's eyes finally filled with tears. "I'm saying that the night I kicked you out wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I loved you too much to let them take you." Marcus couldn't breathe. The words his mother had just spoken hung in the air like poison. He wanted to stand up, to walk out, to pretend he had never heard them. But his body wouldn't move. His mind was racing, trying to process what she had just told him. "You're lying," he finally said. His voice came out weak, uncertain. "You have to be lying." His mother shook her head. "I wish I was. Then why didn't you tell me?" Marcus felt anger rising in his chest again. "Why didn't you explain? Why did you let me believe you hated me?" "Because if I told you the truth, you would have stayed." Her voice broke. "You would have tried to fight them. You would have tried to protect me. And they would have killed you, Marcus. Or worse. These weren't people who made empty threats. They were dangerous. Connected. The kind of people who don't leave witnesses." Marcus stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. He paced to the window, his hands shaking. Outside, the city moved on like nothing had changed. People walked dogs. Cars stopped at red lights. The world kept turning. But inside this hospital room, everything Marcus thought he knew about his life was crumbling. "So you just threw me out," he said, his back still to her. "You made me homeless. You let me think I was worthless to you. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Do you have any idea what I went through? Every single day." His mother's voice was barely a whisper. "Every single day I thought about you. Where you were sleeping. If you were eating. If you were safe. I wanted to find you so badly it felt like dying. But I couldn't. Because if they saw me looking for you, if they knew you mattered to me, they would have used you against me. So you just let me suffer instead." Marcus turned to face her. "You let me hate you." "Yes." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Because your hatred kept you alive. As long as you hated me, you stayed away. As long as you stayed away, they couldn't find you." Marcus felt something twist inside his chest. A part of him wanted to forgive her right there, to understand that she had been trying to save him. But another part of him, the part that had slept on cold streets and eaten from trash cans, the part that had cried himself to sleep wondering why his own mother didn't love him, that part couldn't let go. "You should have trusted me," he said. "You should have told me the truth. We could have figured it out together. You were 17, Marcus. You were a child. What were you going to do against men with guns? Against people who had no mercy?" She tried to sit up straighter but winced in pain. "I made a choice. Maybe it was the wrong choice. Maybe I should have done things differently. But I did what I thought would keep you alive." "And what about you?" Marcos asked. "What about keeping you alive? You worked yourself to death trying to pay them back, didn't you? That's why you're in this hospital. That's why you look like this." His mother didn't answer immediately. She looked down at her hands again, at the IV taped to her thin arm. "I finished paying the debt 6 months ago," she finally said. "Every last dollar. I thought once it was done, I could find you. I could explain. I could try to make things right. But by then, my body had given up. The doctor said I pushed too hard for too long. My heart is failing, Marcus. That's why I'm here. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Her heart was failing. Because she had worked herself to death to save him. Because she had carried this burden alone for 10 years while he hated her. He sat back down in the chair, his legs suddenly unable to hold him. How long do you have? They don't know. Could be months. Could be weeks. She tried to smile, but it came out sad and broken. I asked your aunt not to call you. I didn't want you to come out of obligation. But she did it anyway. She said you deserved to know the truth before it was too late. Marcus put his head in his hands. Everything he had believed for 3 years was a lie. Every night he had cursed her name. She had been working herself to death to protect him. Every moment he had wished she would suffer, she was suffering more than he could imagine. I don't know what to do with this, he said quietly. I don't know how to process this. You don't have to do anything, his mother said. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to forget what you went through. I just wanted you to know the truth. That's all. You deserve to know that I never stopped loving you. Not for a single second. Marcus looked up at her. Her eyes were tired, heavy with years of pain and secrets. And for the first time since he was 7 years old, he saw his mother not as the strong, unbreakable woman he thought she was, but as someone who had been terrified and alone, making impossible choices with no good options. There's something else you need to know, his mother said, her voice growing weaker. Something I haven't told you yet. About why they came after your father in the first place. About who these people really were. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What do you mean? His mother closed her eyes, as if gathering strength for what came next. Your father didn't just owe them money from gambling, Marcus. He was involved with them. Deeply involved. And when he tried to get out, when he tried to walk away, they made an example of him. What kind of example? His mother opened her eyes and looked directly at him. The kind that ends with a body that's never found. The room went silent except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. Marcus felt like he had been punched in the chest. His father. Dead. Not missing. Not living some other life in some other city. Dead. Murdered. And his mother had known all along. You knew, Marcus said slowly. All these years you knew he was dead, and you never told me. What was I supposed to tell you? His mother's voice cracked. That your father got himself killed by criminals? That he left us with a debt that could get us both murdered? You were 7 years old, Marcus. 7? I told you he left because that was easier than telling you he was never coming back. Marcus stood up again, needing to move. Needing to do something with the energy coursing through his body. So everything was a lie. Everything. My entire childhood was built on lies. No. His mother's voice grew firmer despite her weakness. Your childhood was built on me trying to keep you safe. On me trying to give you some kind of normal life even though I was drowning. Every birthday party, every Christmas morning, every school event I showed up to exhausted because I had worked all night. That wasn't a lie. That was me loving you, the only way I knew how. Marcus wanted to argue, but the words died in his throat. Because he remembered those birthdays, those Christmas mornings. His mother always looked tired, always had dark circles under her eyes, but she was always there, always smiling, always pretending everything was fine. He had thought she was just a tired single mother working too much. He never knew she was working to save his life. The men who came for the debt, Marcus said, turning back to face her. Are they still out there? Are they still a threat? His mother shook her head. The debt is paid. They have no reason to come after us anymore. That part is over. But they killed my father. Marcus felt rage building in his chest again. Different this time. Not at his mother, but at the faceless men who had destroyed his family. They killed him, and they just get to walk away? They don't walk away. His mother's voice was quiet. They live in their own kind of prison. Men like that always do. Your father made his choices, Marcus. Bad choices. And I made mine. I chose to pay his debt instead of going to the police because I knew that if I involved the authorities, if I made noise, they would make sure neither of us survived. So I stayed quiet. I paid, and I kept you alive." Marcus sat back down, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on him. "I need to know something," he said, "and I need you to be honest with me. When you kicked me out that night, when you told me to leave, was there any part of you that wanted me gone? Even a small part?" His mother's eyes filled with tears again. "No, God, no. Marcus, sending you away was the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. I practiced what I would say for weeks. I knew I had to make it believable. I knew I had to make you think I didn't care, because if you thought there was any chance I might change my mind, you would have kept trying to come back. And if you came back, they would have found you." She took a shaky breath. "That night after you left, I locked the door and I collapsed on the floor. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run after you. I wanted to pull you back inside and tell you I was sorry and that I didn't mean it. But I couldn't, because keeping you safe meant letting you go. It meant letting you hate me, and I was willing to carry that hate if it meant you got to live." Marcus felt something break inside him. A wall he had built, brick by brick, over 3 years suddenly crumbling. He had spent so long convincing himself that his mother was cruel, that she was cold, that she had stopped loving him. But the truth was so much more complicated, so much more painful. "I slept on the streets," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "I was so hungry sometimes I thought I would pass out. I was scared every single night. And the whole time, I thought it was because you didn't want me anymore." "I know." His mother reached out her hand toward him. "And I will carry that guilt until the day I die, which might be sooner than either of us wants. But Marcus, you survived. You're here. You're alive. You built a life for yourself, and that's all I ever wanted for you." Marcus looked at her outstretched hand. 3 years ago, he would have refused it. 3 years ago, he would have walked out of this room and never looked back. But 3 years ago, he didn't know the truth. He took her hand. It was thin and cold, fragile in his grip. She squeezed weakly, and he felt her trembling. "There's more," she said quietly. "Something else I need to tell you before you decide whether you can forgive me or not." Marcus felt his heart sink. "More? What else could there possibly be?" His mother pulled her hand back and reached for the small table beside her bed. She opened the drawer and pulled out a worn envelope. She held it out to him with shaking hands. "This," she said. "I wrote you a letter every single week for 3 years. Every week I wrote down everything I wanted to say to you. Everything I couldn't say out loud. I kept them all. I kept them because I thought maybe one day, if I survived this, if you survived this, I could give them to you. So you would know that even when you thought I had forgotten you, I was thinking about you every single day." Marcus took the envelope. It was thick, stuffed with folded papers. He could see his name written on the front in his mother's handwriting. His hands were shaking as he held it. "You don't have to read them now," his mother said. "You don't have to read them at all if you don't want to. But I wanted you to have them. I wanted you to know that you were never alone, even when it felt like you were, even when I made you feel like you were." Marco stared at the envelope. Inside were 3 years of his mother's thoughts. 3 years of words she couldn't speak. 3 years of love she couldn't show. "Why are you telling me all of this now?" he asked. "Why not wait? Why not try to get better first and then explain?" His mother's expression changed, became sadder, more resigned. "Because I'm not going to get better, Marcus. The doctors have been very clear about that. My heart is too damaged, too weak. I have weeks at most, maybe days. And I needed you to know the truth before I ran out of time." Marcus felt the world tilt. No, there has to be something they can do. Surgery, medicine, something. There's nothing. His mother's voice was calm, accepting. "I've known for a while now. I made my peace with it. The only thing I couldn't make peace with was leaving without you knowing why I did what I did." Marcus couldn't accept it. After everything, after finally learning the truth, his mother was going to die. It felt cruel, unfair, like some cosmic punishment for sins that weren't even hers. "There has to be something," he repeated, his voice desperate now. "A transplant, a donor, something." His mother smiled sadly. "I'm on the list, but my blood type is rare. And even if a heart became available tomorrow, my body is too weak from years of exhaustion and stress. The doctors don't think I would survive the surgery." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. He had spent 3 years hating this woman. 3 years wishing she would feel the pain she had caused him. And now that he finally understood, now that he finally knew the truth, he was going to lose her. "This isn't fair," he said. "You spent your whole life protecting me. You destroyed yourself to save me. And now I don't even get the chance to make it right." "You being here is making it right," his mother said softly. "You being alive and healthy and standing in front of me is everything I worked for. You don't owe me anything, Marcus. You never did." Marcus wiped his eyes roughly with the back of his hand. "I owe you everything. I owe you 3 years of apologies. I owe you 3 years of gratitude. I owe you a lifetime of being the son you deserved. You were always the son I deserved." His mother's voice was firm despite her weakness. "Even when you were rebellious, even when you talked back, even when you made mistakes, you were mine, and you were perfect exactly as you were." Marcus sat down heavily in the chair, the envelope still clutched in his hands. He looked at it, then back at his mother. "I need to ask you something," he said, "and I need you to tell me the absolute truth. Anything. If you could go back to that night, knowing everything that would happen, would you still do it? Would you still send me away?" His mother didn't hesitate. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. Because you're alive, Marcus. You're here. And that's worth everything I went through. That's worth every sleepless night, every missed meal, every moment of wondering if I had made the right choice. You're alive, and that makes it all worth it." Marcus felt something shift inside him. A weight he had been carrying for 3 years suddenly lifting. Not completely, not entirely, but enough that he could breathe a little easier. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "I don't know if I can forget. I don't know if I can erase what I went through. But I forgive you. Because I understand now. And because I know that everything you did because you loved me." His mother's tears finally fell. Not quietly, but in great shaking sobs that made her whole body tremble. Marcus moved closer, carefully wrapping his arms around her fragile frame. She felt so small, so breakable. Nothing like the strong woman who had raised him. They stayed like that for a long time. Mother and son. Broken and healing. Lost and found. When his mother finally pulled back, her eyes were red but her expression was lighter, as if a burden she had carried for years had finally been lifted. "There's something else," she said, her voice hoarse from crying. "Something I need to show you. Your aunt brought my things from home. There's a box in that closet. Can you get it for me?" Marcus stood and opened the small closet. Inside was a cardboard box, worn and taped shut. He brought it to the bed and his mother gestured for him to open it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Pictures of Marcus as a baby, as a child, as a teenager. Pictures his mother had kept all these years. But underneath the photographs was something else. Papers. Official-looking documents. Marcus pulled them out and started reading. His eyes widened. "What is this?" he asked, his voice shaking. "That," his mother said quietly, "is the deed to the house I kicked you out of. I never sold it, Marcus. I never moved. I kept it exactly as it was the day you left. Your room is still your room. Your things are still your things. I kept it for you. Because I always believed that one day, when the debt was paid and you were safe, I would find you and bring you home. Marcus stared at the papers in his hands. You kept the house. All this time. I kept everything. I kept your home waiting for you. I kept these letters waiting for you. I kept myself alive just long enough to tell you the truth. Everything I did, Marcus, every single thing, was to make sure that one day you could come home. Marcus looked at the deed, then at his mother, then back at the deed. But you're dying. What good is a house if you're not there? His mother reached out and took his hand again. The house was never about me. It was always about you. It's yours now, paid off, free and clear. It's the only thing I have left to give you. A place to call home. The home I should never have taken from you. Marcus felt overwhelmed. The house. The letters. The truth. It was too much. Too fast. 3 years of hate and pain couldn't just disappear because of a few explanations, no matter how true they were. I don't know if I can live there, he said honestly. I don't know if I can walk into that house and not remember the night you told me to leave. Then don't live there, his mother said simply. Sell it, rent it, burn it to the ground if you need to. It's yours to do with as you choose. I'm not trying to buy your forgiveness, Marcus. I'm just trying to give you something real, something solid, something that says I never stopped being your mother, even when I had to pretend I wasn't. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, he saw not just his mother, but a woman who had sacrificed everything, a woman who had carried impossible burdens alone, a woman who had made the hardest choice a mother could make. I want to stay, he said suddenly. Here, with you. However much time you have left, I want to be here. His mother's face crumpled. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. Marcus squeezed her hand. I lost you once. I'm not losing you again. Not without making sure you know that I see you. I see what you did. I see what you sacrificed. And I want to be here. His mother nodded, unable to speak through her tears. But then her expression changed, became troubled, afraid. Marcus, she said slowly, there's one more thing, one more truth I haven't told you. And this one might change everything. Marcus felt his chest tighten. What is it? His mother took a long, shaky breath. Her fingers gripped his hand tighter, as if she was afraid he might pull away once she spoke the words. Your father, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I told you he was killed by those men. And that's true. But I didn't tell you when. Marcus frowned. What do you mean when? You said it happened after he tried to get out. It did. His mother closed her eyes. But it didn't happen right away. They took him that night when you were 7. And for 3 months I didn't know if he was alive or dead. They kept him somewhere, used him as leverage, called me every few weeks to remind me what would happen if I didn't pay. She opened her eyes, and Marcus saw something in them he had never seen before. Raw, unfiltered guilt. And then one day, they called and said I could see him. One last time, to say goodbye. They brought me to a warehouse on the edge of the city. And there he was, beaten, broken, but alive. Barely. Marcus felt sick. Mom, you don't have to tell me this. Yes, I do. Her voice was stronger now, urgent. Because what happened next is something I've carried alone for 13 years. And I can't die without you knowing. She took another breath. Your father looked at me. And he begged me not to pay the debt. He said to let him die. To take you and run, to disappear, and start over somewhere they would never find us. He said his life was already over, but ours didn't have to be. Tears streamed down her face, and I told him no. I told him I would pay every cent. I told him I would get him back. I promised him. Marcus waited, his heart pounding. But then they gave me a choice. His mother's voice cracked. They said I could have your father back right then if I gave them you instead. They said a young boy would be worth more to them than a broken man with nothing left to offer. They said I could walk out of that warehouse with my husband, and all it would cost me was my son. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. And I said no. His mother was sobbing now. I looked at your father, the man I loved, the man I married, and I told them no. I told them they could keep him. I told them I would pay the debt myself. But they would never touch you. Never. She looked directly at Marcus, her eyes desperate. Your father died 2 days later. They killed him because I chose you over him. Because when they gave me that impossible choice, I picked my son. And I have lived with that guilt every single day since. I let your father die to keep you safe. The room was silent except for the sound of her crying and the steady beep of the machines. Marcos sat frozen, trying to process what he had just heard. His mother had been forced to choose between her husband and her son, and she had chosen him. He understood, his mother continued. In that warehouse, before they took me away, he looked at me and he nodded. He knew I was making the right choice. He knew you were worth saving. But that doesn't make it easier. That doesn't erase the fact that I could have saved him, and I didn't. Marcus felt tears running down his own face now. You made the only choice you could make. Did I? His mother's voice was anguished. Or was I a coward? Should I have found another way? Should I have gone to the police? Should I have given myself to them instead and begged them to spare both of you? No? Marcus's voice was firm. You did what any parent would do. You protected your child. Dad would have done the same thing if the choice was his. His mother shook her head. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because that's what love is. That's what parents do. They sacrifice themselves for their children. And that's what you've been doing ever since. You've been sacrificing yourself piece by piece to keep me alive. He moved closer, taking both of her hands in his. Mom, you didn't let Dad die. They killed him. Evil men who made evil choices killed him. You just refused to give them another victim. You refused to let them destroy our whole family. His mother looked at him with such desperate hope that it broke his heart. Do you really believe that? I do. And I need you to believe it too. Because Dad wouldn't want you to carry this guilt. He wouldn't want you to spend your last days thinking you failed him. You honored him by saving me. You honored him by fighting for 13 years to keep me safe. That's not betrayal. That's love. His mother collapsed into his arms, sobbing harder than before. But this time it was different. This time it sounded like relief, like a dam finally breaking after holding back water for too long. They stayed like that until her tears slowed, until her breathing became more regular. When she finally pulled back, she looked exhausted, but somehow lighter. I don't have much time left, she said quietly, but I'm so grateful I got to spend it with you. I'm so grateful you know the truth now. Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus barely left the hospital. He read every one of the letters his mother had written. He brought photos from the box and they went through them together, remembering better times. He told her about his life over the past 3 years, about Sarah, about his job, about the small apartment he was so proud of. And his mother told him stories about his father before everything went wrong. Good stories. Happy memories. She gave him back a father he had thought he lost to abandonment, and replaced that pain with the truth that his father had loved him enough to die for him. On a quiet Tuesday morning, with Marcus holding her hand, his mother passed away, peacefully, without pain. Her last words were, "I love you," and Marcus was able to say them back and mean them with his whole heart. At the funeral, Marcus stood before a small gathering and told the truth. Not all of it, not the darkest parts, but enough. He told them that his mother was a hero, that she had sacrificed everything for her son, that she had carried burdens no one should have to carry alone, and that she had done it all with a strength most people would never understand. 3 months later, Marcus moved back into the house. It was hard at first. The memories were everywhere, but Sarah helped him repaint the walls, rearrange the furniture, make it feel new while honoring what it had been. He framed one of his mother's letters and hung it in the living room. In it, she had written that the hardest part of love is sometimes letting go, even when everything in you wants to hold on. That sometimes protecting someone means hurting them, in the short term to save them in the long term, and that she hoped one day he would understand. Now he did. Marcus started a foundation in his mother's name to help families trapped by debt and dangerous situations. He couldn't save everyone, but he could try, the way his mother had tried, because that's what love looks like sometimes. Not pretty, not perfect, but willing to sacrifice everything, even being hated, to keep someone safe. And that's a lesson Marcus would carry for the rest of his life. If this story made you think about the sacrifices parents make, or if you've ever had to make an impossible choice, share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the people who love us most are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens in silence.